Chapter 1. In human form, a dangerous being trapped in a fragile body. Someone should have really locked me away when the chance existed. I was drawn to stories of vampires from my early childhood on, thrilled to watch human actors pretend the monsters existed. They had no idea. Couldn't. And then I met him. Just another actor pretending to be a monster. His name was Alton Walter. I had written him weeks before, in hopes of simply receiving an autographed photo or something similar in order to satisfy my childish obsession with monsters in movies. He sent me an autographed photo and included a personalized letter. We had been in contact via letters and social media since that first correspondence. Chapter 2. I was called to the office via intercom before first period. "Miss Handl?" the unsure voice said. "Yeah?" I always responded with a German accent. "Please report to the office. You have a visitor." That response surprised me. A visitor? Who would visit me? And why wasn't this person allowed to my classroom without my greeting? I shook it off. On my way, I gave my morning crew a look as I nearly left in my slippers yet again. I wasn't a morning person, but I always welcomed the company of a few quiet students before school. I hurried to switch shoes, mumbling inaudible wonderings as I left. Who was this visitor? Who comes before school starts anyway? Who would want to wake up at such an early hour just to visit? Does this person look so dangerous that the office staff wouldn't want to let him loose in the school? I arrived mid-thought to see a young, handsome, smiling man with messy hair and a troubled brow. "Nicole?" I felt my heart jump. "Alton?" I jumped to him and gave him a bear hug without thinking. He laughed as he hugged me back. I backed away as I realized my confusion, saying, "But what are you doing here?" He laughed again. "Would you like me to leave?" He took a few small, slow steps towards the door. No, I was just wondering, why? What brings you to Washington of all places?" "I've come to visit you, of course." The words made my heart skip again as I replied in childish disbelief. "Really?" He laughed. "Of course." He paused, then laughed again before noting, jokingly, "You're much shorter than I imagined." I pretended to take offense, but I was too used to that joke. "Hey now, I told you how tall I am." He was still laughing as he glanced down at me. "Yes, but I'm not quite sure I knew how very short that was." I blushed and grinned sheepishly as I tried to think of a comeback, but he spoke first, saying, "Besides, I'd like the chance to meet this Charles fellow." Can't, I couldn't seem to think of anything appropriate to say. I shook my head before trying again. "I still work with him, you know." He smiled a relaxed and carefree smile. "I just want to see what kind of a man could let you go so easily." "Well, you don't want to meet him in the morning at least. He's one of those morning freaks. Maybe we should get some coffee first. Shall I make a Starbucks run?" No, we've got our own coffee place." But before we could leave the office and get in line for the coffee, I heard whistling. I knew I shouldn't have turned my head. "Good morning, Nicole." Charles bounced as he spoke. "Morning, Charles." I grumbled as I rolled my eyes and cringed. Charles' morning personas had always annoyed me. I was glad I didn't need to pretend now that we weren't dating. "Oh, so this is the infamous Charles." Alton's glint in his eyes met with his voice in a playful way. Charles looked at Alton, and his eyebrow immediately rose. "You look so familiar." I cleared my throat and said, "Charles, this is Alton. Alton, Charles." I didn't like the way Charles talked to me now that we weren't together. He always assumed I wanted to be best friends, but in reality, I couldn't stand being in the same room as him. He had treated me horribly, and his insistence of constant surface-level communication bothered me to no end. Alton shook Charles' hand and grinned politely, with a hint of mischief in his eyes, saying, "I've heard a lot about you." Charles glanced at me, then back, hesitant. "I haven't heard anything about you." They were still shaking hands. I could see the competition in Alton's eyes, as if there were competition. He glanced at me with the playful gleam still present. "That's sad." Charles pulled away. "Yeah, well, Nicole and I don't see much of each other now that I'm way on the other side of the campus." He cleared his throat. "So, don't, worry?" There was a question in his voice, confusion even. I stepped in, putting my hand on Alton's right elbow. "So, shall we get some coffee?" I turned to Charles and used as polite a tone as I could muster to say,